I've always loved watching animals here at the mixed species habitat, but I wonder, can we measure their behavior? And if so, are there any math patterns connected to it?
Yes, we can measure animal behavior, which is really helpful if we want to learn more about the way an animal lives and how to help it if there's a problem.
If you think about it, behavior is basically just how the animal interacts with its environment or with others. I've heard that mathematicians are working right now with animal biologists to study that behavior and measure it. It's so cool to see all these new studies of fields come alive.
Exactly. In fact, the beginning point of searching for patterns in animal behavior is to measure and track animal behavior using something called an ethogram. An ethogram is a catalog or table of different kinds of behavior being observed in an animal. Then you can look for patterns of behavior in the data collected in the ethogram. Let's take a look at an ethogram.
Here's an example of an ethogram. This is the same one that the zoo uses for their elephants. It's for a 10-minute observation that is split into 10 one-minute intervals. So each time that the stopwatch tells the researcher it's been 1 minute, they record the information. The animal researchers are interested in collecting these specific data about elephants. Take a look at these categories.
The categories include movement or locomotion, location in the habitat, distance from other elephants, and specific behaviors. Let's look at a sample data set for Gypsy the elephant.
So just by looking at the location data, Gypsy started out in the pool and moved over to near the fig tree in the first 5 minutes.
Here's a map of the area. So Gypsy moved along this area in the first 5 minutes.
Near the bottom of the ethogram, we can see that for each category, like behaviors, locomotion, and so forth, there were a total of 10 observations recorded within this 10-minute observation of Gypsy the elephant. And they converted her activities into percentage, which is very useful.
There's a lot you can do with this ethogram data to look for Gypsy's behavioral patterns. Here's a bar graph showing her activity budget over the 10-minute observation.
Looks like Gypsy really likes to eat. I can imagine that as the animal researchers gathered lots of ethogram data for her, they could know if this was a consistent pattern, where she spends the bulk of her time eating, or if there's certain times of the day she likes to eat most, or even if the amount of time spent eating changes as she gets older.
Yes, isn't it cool that when you see the ethogram data, you get lots of questions in your mind? And by gathering more ethogram data, you can start to answer them and understand the math patterns that Gypsy and other elephants follow.
Here are Gypsy's location preferences. Looks like she liked spending most of her time near the barn or near the fig tree.
And here are Gypsy's locomotion rates in a pie chart. The chart is a helpful visual tool, like the graphs were, to look for patterns. It looks like she liked standing mostly, at least for this 10-minute observation window.
Finally, here's a bar graph showing how close she was to the other elephants. Looks like 30% of the time she was quite close to another elephant. I'd really like to see more data based on Gypsy's behavior. She really likes to interact with Jenny. Same with Congo and Kamba, they really love playing with one another. And Ajabu, our 5-year-old male, loves to spend time with his mom and the rest of the females in the herd.
That is just awesome that you know so much about all of these behavioral patterns, all because you take the time to observe and measure information in a systematic way using ethograms.
You can even use ethograms at home with your pets. Doesn't that sound like fun?
Oh yeah, we could come up with a generic ethogram to do that. Here's an example of one. You could also add other categories based on what you're interested in measuring.
I definitely need to add sleep as a category for my dog. He loves sleeping, and there'd be a bunch of intervals for that. Unless you say the word cookie, of course.
Even my fish moves differently when I feed it. I could track its swimming pattern. Never even thought about that.
You're so right. Math helps us predict and measure animals' behaviors, which helps us help them.